Let's get an update in Tuscaloosa, shall we? Luke Robinson, Locked On Alabama, joining me here on the show. Luke, as Alabama begins spring football under their new head coach, Kalen DeBoer, what's their biggest priority?
I think the biggest priority, and look, this is so obvious and cliche, but I think it's going to be to try and get Jalen Milroe improved as a passer, more polished. He already has a great and deadly deep ball, and I think that his running game, his personally and Alabama's overall, is very good. He's just going to have to get a little bit more accurate and better with his decision making, especially when it comes to intermediate and short passes. And if that can get shored up, then I think Alabama will be in great shape.
Outside of Milroe, who we'll get back to in just a moment, what else are you looking for in spring football, reports, information, and everything of the sort? Where should Kalen DeBoer have his teeth really sunk in for this Alabama team?
Again, I think the obvious answer is offensive line. I mean, Alabama lost some big names from the offensive line, like a J.C. Latham, like a Seth McLaughlin, who transferred to Ohio State. Some people may view that as a positive. I personally don't. I mean, I think there was a reason he was starting every single game. But I think the offensive line does need to get better. We'll see some new faces there, and they'll probably have a new attitude, but they'll be coached by a coach that knows how to coach offensive line very well. So I feel like the offensive line is certainly crucial. Another place for me is going to be receiver. Alabama didn't really seem to have the it guy last year after all this time of being spoiled by the likes of Calvin Ridley and Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith.
Go back to Julio Jones. I mean, it's been a long run. It's been a long run of successful wide receivers out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because growing up as an Alabama fan, I didn't get to see a ton of wide receivers that were uber successful, especially not in the NFL. But like all these guys have done it and done it well. Amari Cooper's still going strong in the NFL. Julio Jones is probably going to hang it up this year, but I mean, he had a nice, fruitful career, probably going to end up in a gold jacket. And then the other guys I mentioned, they're all doing really well. Jerry Jeudy, ironically, just got traded to the Browns. But I want to see somebody else step up. Obviously, Isaiah Bond last year had some memorable moments, specifically the Gravedigger play call in the Iron Bowl. But really, I think there was people expected even a little bit more out of him. I think he's a great wide receiver, but he certainly wasn't the caliber of those other guys I mentioned. So is somebody like a Kobe Prentice going to be able to do something to step up to the next level? Is somebody like Caleb Odom, who's coming in that everybody thought was going to be a tight end? Well, it looks like he's going to be more like a huge wide receiver. Is he going to be able to come in and make some serious noise? So receiver for me is something that I'm really looking forward to in terms of somebody stepping up.
Yeah, I think Milroe is a capable quarterback. As you mentioned, he's definitely got some room for improvement. But if you have good weapons around you, everybody knows in college or the NFL, that, of course, is a huge advantage, especially for a young quarterback that has just the 1 year of starting experience under his belt. And it wasn't even a full year, right? It was a little bit choppy. He didn't get the starting job until a little bit, into the season. Of course, he played it out and is the clear-cut starter for Alabama going into this year. But he's got an offensive coordinator who 2 months ago at this time would not have been his offensive coordinator because there was a coaching change there. And Coach Huff along the offensive line and Coach Grubb as the OC left Kalen DeBoer and the Crimson Tide before ever calling a play, or I don't even know if they ever even contacted recruits in that capacity. They went to the Seahawks to be a part of Coach McDonald's staff up there, which as a Seahawks fan, I personally am rather happy about. The in-house promotion of Coach Sheridan to the offensive coordinator position. How is that being received amongst Alabama fans, and how should it be received?
Honestly, in terms of how it's being received, I think everybody is being very patient. It's not like us as Alabama fans to be incredibly patient. But we are taking a very wait-and-see approach to this whole new staff. If you ask me, now, of course, there are fringes that are saying Alabama won't skip a beat, and the other side is Alabama is doomed and the ship is sinking. I understand. But I think everybody is being cautiously optimistic. I mean, Kalen DeBoer has done a great job at Washington. He's done a great job everywhere he's been, but he's never been in the SEC. And I know some people don't like to hear it. The SEC is the best. That's where the best are. It's where the best athletes are, the best competition every single week. The hardest places to play on the whole are in the SEC. So it's going to be different. And his first SEC game is going to be taking on Georgia at home after an off week. But the week before that off week, you play at Wisconsin. So he's got a lot to do. It's going to be difficult. And I think everybody's like, okay, let's see what happens. Now, when the season gets closer, most Alabama fans are going to be like, I think we'll be fine. 10-2 is a floor kind of thing. I don't know. I think the floor could be more like 9-3, 8-4, but I'm more likely to predict something like a 10-2 because, again, I think the players are there. I think the staff is good. I believe in them as much as I can believe in a staff that's never coached my team before. That's how much I believe in them. I can't say that they have the confidence that I had in Nick Saban's staff. I also can't say that they have the doubt that I had in the Shula years or in the DeBoer's years, et cetera. So it's somewhere in between, but I lean closer to Saban years than I do those other ones.
I think you could make the case that DeBoer is inheriting a more talent-rich roster than the one he took over at Washington. And in 2 years there, he won 11 games in his first season, and then this past year went to the national championship game. The one difference, though, is I don't think Jalen Milroe is one season away from being a first-round quarterback. Now, full disclosure, I didn't see that with Michael Penix either, because I saw with Penix an injury history. I saw some inconsistencies. He had that amazing year at Indiana in the COVID season where the Indiana Hoosiers were in the top 15 nationally, and that's one of the things that you look at no matter where you are in the country, and you go, Indiana's where? Indiana's beating who? I don't care what the conditions are. That's incredible. And so that was kind of everybody's last impression of him. Everyone's last impression of Jalen Milroe was probably making the wrong read on the quarterback option, the power option there with the swing route on the fourth down play call against Michigan in the Rose Bowl there. But new offensive staff, DeBoer's at the helm. His track record with quarterbacks is very good. Now, Ryan Grubb has been there for large swaths of that, but it's not as if Kalen DeBoer is going to just, not be a part of the development of Jalen Milroe here. So how does he get the most out of Milroe going into this season?
Again, I think you just have to make sure that he's able to complete some of those intermediate to short passes. That was his problem a lot of time. He could improvise. When the play broke down, Jalen Milroe was great at improvisation. He could run around. I know one time specifically in the SEC title game, he was able to start running and then just sort of flick it right at the last second to a receiver to get a big first down. It was almost Bryce Young-like, but those were few and far between. And again, his running game is fantastic, but people are eventually going to force you to do something else. And the other problem Alabama had, obviously, was problems with the snaps and things last year. So, again, if that can get corrected, and I feel like it will, I think Alabama will be just fine. Now, there's also Ty Simpson there. They've also got Austin Mack, who's come in at 6'8", somewhere in that neighborhood. Young guy, but a lot of promise, and he can really sling it. I've seen some folks that talk to some folks that have been to practice, and they like what they see out of him so far. So I don't think Alabama is in peril if Jalen Milroe can't get it turned around, but I'm going to also say this. I think Jalen Milroe will get it turned around. I believe in Jalen Milroe as much as anybody because I've met him. I've spoken to him. This dude has his head on right. I think he just needs the right guy to get through to him. And hopefully Kalen DeBoer and this staff will be those guys to make that happen.
I'm curious how the marriage of Milroe's skill set and DeBoer's offense works this fall because Milroe is a very mobile guy, not as if he can't make plays from the pocket. He loves a downfield shot. DeBoer loves a downfield shot as well. But DeBoer schemes his offenses for the plays to be made from the pocket. And sometimes I think with like Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, for instance, that can clash a little bit. I'm not saying it will. It's just something that I'm most definitely going to be watching for to see how he fits into that offense and what the offense looks like. Does he want Milroe to adapt to his scheme, or does he want to adapt a little bit more to what Milroe's skill set is? Real quick, which of those two do you feel like is more likely?
I feel like my philosophy is a good coach will adapt to what he has on the short term and then long term recruit guys or train guys to be more like what he actually wants. I think on the short term for this particular year, and because it's not a rebuild, I think that he will adapt more to what Milroe can do versus trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Luke Robinson, Locked On Alabama, everything you need to know for spring football down in Tuscaloosa. Luke, thanks so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Is the Big 12 the most wide open conference? Vegas thinks so. I don't know if I agree.